Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in Brandon Cruz of So Hideous. How are you, man? It's been a minute.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. Happy holidays for people who are celebrating. It's a very, very busy time. So thanks for taking your time out to have me on.
And the same for you. Thank you for spending some time with Ghost Cult and myself. I really appreciate it. I have followed this band for ages. Surely one of my favorite bands from my time in New York, especially the end time. And it's been a minute, 6 years between records, 5 or 6 years. Not that you haven't been doing anything. I think the band took a little hiatus, understandably. There was the orchestral version of Laurestein, which was huge record for you guys. Really critically and fan acclaimed. I don't really look at other critics, but you'd have to be in under a rock to not know that everybody had this record, that last record, on their top whatever list at the end of the year for 2015, as did we here at Ghost Cult. Huge fans. So stoked to have this new album, and the complete and appropriate title, I'm going to read it so I don't fuck it up, is None But a Pure Heart Can Sing, coming soon on Silent Pendulum Records. That's December 3rd on the release. This interview will be out after that, but hopefully people will go pick it up. We'll link everything in the description. What have you been up to in the intervening years?
Yeah, I mean, some of us either started families, or in the case of our other guitarist, Etienne, added on to existing families. I only have one child, he has three. So that made, practicing and logistics really, really difficult. I also think too, after we did the last couple of records, we were just kind of fried, being even if you have a label, being a niche band is very much DIY. Like you got to constantly be on it, and you also constantly have to look at the financial aspect of it, the unglamorous side of it. But pretty soon you're in the hole, and there comes a point where it's like, I love this, but I have to get health insurance, right? Like it's like I need to focus on other things. But we also reached a point where we were able to focus on those things and create some sort of continuity in our lives. And we were at a precipice where it's like either the day jobs are our life, or we use this to continue to subsidize our art. And there were, I guess, dissenting opinions on it, in terms of how much effort it is, because we know that even in a band of a smaller scale, it's still a Herculean effort to get 4 or 5 people to agree on one thing, let alone all be passionate about the same thing and then give it everything they have to get it out. So it took a while to get those moving. And I mean, throughout the whole process, I was still doing the same thing I always do. It's like, can't sleep, go to the piano at 3:00 in the morning, and just start playing. And gradually it started to add up, and I got in touch with me and Etienne, my other guitarist. We never really get out of touch, but we were just sort of like, let's get 2 of us in a room and just play. We're not doing anything. There's a pandemic now. Let's all of these recordings I've been sending you for the past 3 years, let's get them together and put a home to them. And it started to really snowball after that. And I want to say within 18 months, it really escalated and coalesced. And yeah, we got it together.
Nice, man. And I'm glad you mentioned the pandemic. I know everybody's pandemic out and burned out from fried from just this whole last couple of years, but also obviously I sincerely hope you and family and all your families are well and everybody's in peace, in one piece, because it's been hard for humans, let alone hard for artists and musicians to create and make a thing. But maybe I think what I'm hearing from people is this sort of dichotomy, which is, on one hand, I've never had so much time with my family. You guys were kind of on a break or working your way up to what would become this release. But also, so I'm so glad to be home finally, or I can't believe I'm home this much. I hope I don't fall apart, because a lot of other musicians who have a different kind of dynamic in their band, all they know is the road, or like road crew people, all they know is the road. And I was like, what happens to that one person who they're never home? How do they adjust and just get up in the morning and make eggs and not die?
The road
from,
warrior. Yeah.
right? Like,
How does he deal with that? Especially because anybody, even if you do a short tour, slowing down for real life after coming back, even for 2 weeks, it's just such a different speed. And, trying to get yourself engaged to that when you've been go, 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 driving to places or flying to places and meeting different people. And I'm sure, like you said, bands who have been doing that for years, for them to finally slow down, it must be tough. I know, thankfully for us, we're in the other camp where we were already inactive. And it was great to actually have that time away from the rat race of other things to really sort of confront it and say, listen, I know that I want to do these songs. I believe I have songs that I believe in. I have something fresh too that I want to say. So, let's do the damn thing, right? Like let's get that done. And that was sort of really freeing. I mean, it was weird at the beginning when going into rehearsal spaces and this is pre-vaccine and like at the height of it, and everyone's looking like surgeons and hand sanitizer before you come in, and it was we were laughing like, I guess this is our career, like this is so Hideous's methodology, like it's like pick the hardest time to try and do something, but let's do it and persevere. So yeah, I'm grateful that we were able to sort of build upon just hanging out in a room playing clean guitars and piano in March 2020 when the world was shutting down.
Right on, right on. And I'm glad you talked about Etienne, but also, of course, I have to ask about the brothers, because you hear a lot of stories. A lot of bands have brothers like the Van Halens and Dimebag and Vinnie Paul, and they were like, in like super simpatico, always in synchronicity, read each other's minds. And then you have like Oasis, where they want to kill each other all the time. Yeah. So where do you guys fall in that scale, and how are you doing now compared to like in the past at all?
It's interesting, right? Because I recorded the first EP that which was the demo, even before To Clasp, with completely different band members, right? It was people who no brothers, no best friends. And then on the second EP, my brother Chris came in to sing, and he was a guitarist in a death metal band. Like he was just playing all the, that kind of music. And he was telling me, I was auditioning people. He's like, you got to let me try. You got to let me try. And, always being the older brother, you scoff, and you sort of make that mistake. But I mean, he never gave up, man. It was like 6 months. I was like, okay, let me let him go. And then, he did great. So I put him on the second EP. Like it was like right away, because, things fell apart with the previous vocalist, like 4 weeks before we were set to record To Clasp. And it was like, okay, I told Chris, I have these lyrics, sit down with me and I'll break down syllabically when you need to hit it. And he was like, perfect. And yeah, he came in and belted it out, and it sort of was pretty easy from then on out. I think especially too because he focuses more on I guess the customer facing aspect of being in a band that I'm not necessarily the greatest at. Like I really like to write songs and play music, and he's really, really fantastic at the social networking and sort of knowing who's who and working with them and doing those things, which is so important in a band. And I think it's great because we kind of have our own unique lanes, and I'm appreciative of that. So
that's
yeah, we don't have those problems. There's no Noel Gallagher like trying to sing Wonderwall while Liam is like throwing stuff at him from the balcony, right? Like we don't have that.
I will never forget that. I think that was their MTV Unplugged also, and I will never ever forget it. I think they stole each other's wives at one point, like some wild, crazy. The Black Crowes have had a hard time. They patched it up. Yeah. Glad there's no thing like that with you guys, but I always like to ask because you just never, sometimes the vibe is like, I don't know how it really is. When we're not in a band, I hate that guy. So, I will also say I want to jump into the album in a second, but I do want to point out that when the band developed and emerged, New York City is a very diverse musical scene, but also the heavy music scene, it's wild, but it's also not always forgiving. And so you guys definitely stood out in a good way, but also like, you have your little fiefdoms it's a little more of a scene back to being like a real scene again now, like maybe in the early 90s or late 80s. But there was definitely a period of time like 15 years ago where it's like, I don't like what those guys are doing. Like
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
guys in the back of the room like that.
100% impress me. Yeah, with the
Or
arms.
just not even, you can't impress me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not feeling it. This is not my thing.
Right. No.
A lot of that at Knitting Factory and CB's before they closed and all the good places. But yeah, I was just wondering how, you guys kind of followed your own path this whole time. Really, really singular artistic vision, yours and everybody else's so attached. So I just wanted to kind of get a little feedback from you about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely 100% been challenging. I think it's been a slow burn, and I think that might be the best part about the longevity and about, so if you start in '08, right, and then even if you take 6 years off, coming back, even those people who were more like reticent to check us out were, back in the day, were kind of like, all right, cool, these guys are back, okay, like it's been long enough. Meanwhile, before, people definitely had, teeth bare, ready to, like, we would get it all the time. We'd be on stage and it would be, someplace either like the Charleston or Lit Lounge or something, and people would just, like you say, stand in the back, come up, look at the pedal board, ask us why we played with Telecasters, a whole host of other things, and then really get into, really get bogged down into like genre nomenclature. Like, so what do you consider yourself? And like really taking a hard line for it. And I'm just like, dude, I just want to play guitar, man. Like I just like these songs. I want to, just keep doing that. And it was really interesting, I think, how adamant people are. And it's always nice when people are passionate about things, but at the same time, it was sort of like, I don't have an answer for you about the metal culture wars, or anything like that. Like, I mean, I get in the room with my friends and we like the way this sounds, and that's how we make it happen. That's how we make it work.
Right on. But then I also saw you guys in other cities and people loved you. So like maybe it wasn't always the beloved hometown love like you want, but like I saw you guys in Boston, I saw you guys in other Philly, and people were like, "Oh, I totally love this. This is exactly what I needed." Because I think you have like not the same bands, but similar bands of the same cloth, Junius and Rosetta at one point, City of Ships, things like that. I was like, oh, I relate to this because I hear some of the stuff I like in this. So, it's just hard. It's just hard. In the East Coast, we're so brutal, man. We're so mean.
They're hardcore. People asking us where are the breakdowns and all of that.
Right. Why is there no punchy part?
Yeah.
We love that stuff, but like, yeah. And then so fast forwarding to this new record, man, this is really like for those that love Lauristine, this is a next logical progression. Even beyond that, this thing it's only a few tracks in my mind, but they're very expansive. There's a couple of really long ones. It's really well thought out and composed beautifully. And then I love the orchestration. And I know that's a thing that's just been growing and growing with the band. But let's talk a little bit about these songs and these super guest spots by brilliant helpers.
Yeah, by incredible musicians. I think the one caveat to sort of returning and coming back was that if we were going to do it and we're going to be a band of this size, and we understand the time investment and we understand the monetary investment that's going to come into it, then we want to treat it like we were 16 years old when we got in a room and it was like the only barometer was, how does this sound? Is it great? Then let's do it. Not looking at it like, man, I've always wanted to try something like this, but if we do it, it's going to be injurious to our brand. Like that's not anything that we were saying. If we took 6 years off, then there's, why would we do that? And you can't win either way, when you take that stance, right? You do the same thing, you're accused of plagiarizing yourself and making no progress. And if you make what you consider a leap and do what you want, people want the older stuff. So it was more, let's just be free, man. Let's just do we like these songs? Let's do it. And the first song, at the end of Lauristine, when we were touring live, and it was just the album of atmosphere, texture, and orchestrations. Like that was it. I was just like, I want a Max Richter record with a guy yelling on it. That's all I want. And that was like very much like hammering home that idea. And then I started writing the riffs to the Emerald Pearl, and it was like, this is great because it's not an atmosphere. This is very much, percussion driven. And I'm thinking about all that, like James Brown and Quincy Jones, where they have all these like guitar ostinatos. It's like 3 or 4 notes, and it just and things sort of add on top of that, and it builds. There's a groove, but I'm like, okay, we'll do that minor key with a guy yelling on it, and I was just like, this is something that I want to hear. This is something I'm listening to. It's something I'm interested in. And once it started getting, more and more groove driven and more based in that, it was sort of like, okay, I'm listening to all these Fela Kuti records, and this guy is killing it on the sax. He's killing it on the trumpet. How do we keep that intensity that we have? But again, I want to be able to move, especially, coming up after a record, about death and like, for me, divorce and all this other stuff. It was just, an interesting way of I guess, deconstructing the way that I write music, which is like sad thing at the piano, and then we play it louder. Right. so
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the best description of all time of any band describing their own music. Perfect. I was always going to say Fela's the truth. I know, music's not for everybody, but like, it's awesome to hear where all your stuff pulls from and these different things. And I do also notice that for guitar players, when they go to the non-traditional, it usually involves the guitar as another kind of an instrument. And again, I tell people all the time, people don't remember in the jazz days, in the classic jazz era, piano is really a rhythm instrument more than a melodic instrument, just happens to have 88 notes. And the percussiveness of playing and the intensity of the playing always adds a character and a flavor to the composition. And it's not just like widdly, widdly, widdly,
Yeah. Doing that, and it felt great to sort of have that, and then say, okay, let's have, rather than me because the way I approached it always before on Laurstein was that, okay, I'm violin 1, so I'm trimming all the lead lines. Etienne is violin 2 and viola. He's doing the chord changes. The bass is the cello, and then we have everything sort of doubling that. And it was nice to sort of say, okay, we're not doing any of that. we're rhythmically playing these chords for the most part, and then have the actual winds, the actual brass, come in and take over for that. And it was just super freeing, man. And that was, I think at this age, to sort of have that feeling when like you picked up your first guitar and played your bar chords for the first time and it worked, like to get that, these 20 some odd years later, 30 years later for me, that was great, because I wasn't sure I could have that again.
Right on. A shout out to Seven Sons and my pal Romanine,
Yes.
who's one of the faces of that band, of many, many talented folks, and also a tremendous horn section. Again, you don't get a lot of brass in heavy music in this kind of genre done this well, done this way. I will say that the intention is always in a good place. Doesn't always translate to the finished product. Obviously, it's easier when you're writing something rather than interpreting somebody else's music. But phenomenal job by everybody involved. We'll probably, when we list everything in the description where to buy this record and all that stuff, we'll probably credit everybody, because I think they need to get a shout out. And I'm terrible with names.
No. It was just a lot of people, and it was interesting too. I think coming out of Laurstein, where it was like, okay, we want a Hans Zimmer. We want a large chamber orchestra, right? Like, I mean, we're going 30 pieces with the strings, then vocals, and then brass. And it was like, it wound up being 50 people when it was all said and done. And for here to say, we're going back to a string quartet, and we're going to get, 3 brass players. But I mean, people who have lived a life. I mean, these guys came in, and it was just like, the utmost confidence, and it was just like Lynn was just running ideas off the sheet music, and just sort of, it got to the point where like I wasn't even precious. I was like, all right, fuck it, like throw it all out, and you can, let's try this. Let's get a couple of takes there, and it was, that was tremendous, especially because on the previous records I held things so tightly that it was really, really nice to sort of open it up to those happy accidents.
Right on. That's hard to do for anybody. I'm a control freak myself. I always was. It's probably why my bands didn't go anywhere and why I'm doing this now. But like, yeah, it's really hard to let go and let other people do their thing and put their stamp on the thing you help make, if that makes sense. And I really applaud that. It's hard. It's hard for anybody, but it's hard if you never have.
Hmm. So yeah, I was like, oh man, this is a process of continuing growth. I guess here we are.
Right on, right on. Is it possible, is it feasible that this could get performed live in like one shot in the future? Or is it just like when you go to approach a new live performance of this album's music, will you just rearrange it again to something
So
else?
so yeah, as we speak, we're working on at least trying to get a few special performances full tilt with the quartet and with the brass people, so that we can have it. We're not sure at of the markets, like even if we do 5 dates in like the biggest markets for us, I guess it's just a band of this size, that's what we can do with that. And then after that, I guess we'll have to revert back to the punk band shows, of us kind of approximating our music the best. But yeah, that is actually the priority for, the album coming out, next week. And then, the vinyl sort of shipping out at the beginning of the year, and then early spring having those event shows where the record is played front to back with all of the additional musicians, plus some of the choice cuts from a couple of the other records as well.
Right on. Definitely some of the Laurestein material would translate with that kind of arrangement. I can imagine even some of the earlier things would be fun to get them in a new light with some additional players. Certainly, if you don't make it out west, I'm going to have to make it back east. There's no other way. I have to see
No,
this if it's
that'd be
possible.
fantastic. Like
And
call me up, and you can. There's a place in the couch. You know what I
oh,
mean?
word. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I might take you up on it.
come on.
Uh, Word. I would love to. Is it, not that I want you to speak on specific lyrics or anything, but is it fair to say that there's a concept overarching on this record, or is it just kind of come together like, musically, and then there's a concept also sort of in the secondary lane?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was kind of hatched concurrently, and that was the great thing about having so much time, that because normally what winds up happening is that, like, we have a full record written, and then we think about the concept of the record, and then we kind of shape the lyrics around it. And with this, because we had sort of concentrated blocks over the years of putting it together, it was like we have this song and the lyrics are kind of growing with it. And by the time we got close to recording a studio booking, like, I mean, I had Apple Notes and notebooks full of all this stuff, and it was more, how do I sift through this and see what makes the most sense? I think a lot of it, really had to do with just even with the album title, like, it's like, singing your song and just not having any fear about it, and just really not thinking about anything else other than that personal expression, taking it back to sort of like the purest thing. I mean, because even for, like, we only have, a small amount of people who have like heard the record, but it's mostly like the hardcore metal people who kind of are like, you know what, man, I can't follow you on this one, man. And I'm like, you know what, like, that's cool, but it's like, what I'm hoping at least is that if people can't come with us on this journey, they can at least appreciate and respect the honesty and the honest place it's coming from, where it's like, no, we just wanted to do these songs, like, there's really no ulterior motive. We wanted to create, we wanted to come back as a band, and we love these songs, and we hope you guys do too. And that is really it.
Right on. Imagine how hard it is as an artist, a creator of anything, to not stay in your lane over and over again. You get success with something, or you get some attention, and then to have the boldness to say, I'm going to throw that out or take most of it away and try to do something completely different every single time. It rarely is a commercial success, but okay, we're in heavy music. There's no real commercial success,
Right.
except for like the top 2% of, Metallica and their friends, Slipknot. And then, to do something really creative and inventive and have people also dig it, it's rare. So, like, yeah, definitely, I like your perspective. I'm glad you have good heart. Your heart's in the right place about things, and it's not going to break you if people don't love it. And I'm sure there are still people who love the band from 15 years ago who will come out, and curiosity will, they'll see if they can hang. in
Yeah,
live.
yeah, and
And I think live it'll have a different, maybe even a different spaciousness that the record doesn't have yet. I
Mhm.
think live it might be different in the room
Yeah,
also in terms of translating.
yeah,
Just a personal.
yeah, 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 yeah. Getting people in a room sweating, feeling the energy, feeling the volume. The funniest thing about this band too is that like when something happened one time, we were like, okay, this is odd, it's an aberration. But then we started noticing a pattern with each record, and now I guess we're sort of used to it. So the EP came out to Clasp in 2011, and first the demo came out in 2010. Crickets, right? To Class comes out in 2011. At first, crickets, maybe a few people live like it. Then Last Poem comes out in 2013, and that's disappointing, but To Class was incredible. And it's like, but wait, nobody cared about that when it came out. Now it's incredible. So fast forward 2 years later, Lauristine comes out. It's not heavy enough. It's disappointing compared to Last Poem. Now we're doing this one. We're away. People are emailing me. Lauristine is a masterpiece. I love that record. And now it's like, okay, I guess we'll see. Maybe people will appreciate this record when whatever the next one we do comes out after that. And it's just,
Right.
at that point, you have to just sort of free yourself from any, expectancy outcome and just, enjoy what's happening here. And I think that was a major reason why we came back, because we wanted to just enjoy the process rather than, on the last couple of records, like you sign your first record deal and all of a sudden band practices are less about what you're doing and it becomes about what content do you have, what are your social media metrics. And again, I understand it, I respect it, it's a huge part of the business. That's why so many of these bands are very successful. But then we lost sight of what the hell it is that we actually got here to do. And it was great to sort of say we're coming back for reasons that are important to us.
Wonderful, man. Well, like I said, this is to me an important band. I think to a lot of people an important band, and it's awesome to have you back. I just have a couple more quick ones for you. I really appreciate. It's hard for artists to talk about art, and I do tend to ask like the very obtuse, process-driven questions that are hard to nail down. So you've been wonderful. I appreciate you. I do want to talk about this album cover, the artwork, because it's haunting. It's like this is a very mysterious album cover to get late in the year after I've seen like 1,000 album covers this year.
Yeah, it was. I kept if I was talking about, I didn't want to dig too hard on a concept this record, because Lauristine was very much like, this is about the concept. The whole record needs to sound like this. We're gonna go into 7-time signature. It's 7 minutes in the brain. Like everything had to sort of fit the concept. And I had a loose concept for this album, but I was like, okay, if we're talking about doing something because you love it, for personal freedom, for expression, right? I just had this idea of someone who's in captivity and like all she wants to do is sing her song. That's it, you know. Um, and I kept looking around for sort of these older, I guess, Victorian images, and it was very, very important for us, at least for me. They talk about now representation matters. I agree. It was important. I was like, okay, I want a woman of color on the cover, and it has to sort of encapsulate that. And I kept looking and looking and searching through all these public domain photos, and then we stumbled upon that. And I had to sort of, do the necessary due diligence to see, what it is, who it belongs to. And yeah, it was just totally up for grabs, public domain. And then I sent it to my brother, Chris, who, he handles a lot of, the visual aspect for the band. And I was like, dude, this is the record. And like his text message was just like uppercase YES. I was like, all right, there we go. And then from there, he was able to sort of, create some mock-ups, and it went through a couple of different things. I think we were thinking more of like, sort of finding a picture of someone almost like a scrapbook, an old scrapbook, and opening it up. And I kept one of the lyrics, on the album is that someone is combing their hair, and every time they do, memories fall out. And we just kept thinking about the hair, and like lyrically, I think I went overboard. It's on like all 5 of the songs, but it it all really tied together. And then, we were talking about just utilizing different colors, and me and him were totally in concert on having a white background, and having it stand out that way more than, I guess the what we would traditionally think as like ethereal, which would either be the dark stuff or be like the lighter blues and stuff like that. We wanted to kind of move away from that, and it was just great. And yeah, he went away for like 3 weeks, and then he sent me, like one or two, different versions, and like the first one he sent was that. And we all got on the group thread and we're like, this is it. We see it. This perfectly encapsulates this person, doing that. And that was also great too, because I think aside from Laurstein, Laurstein, we had total control of the cover, but before that, we didn't really. It was very much like you need a cover, get it out. Here's our digital artists from the record label, like here you go. And Laurstein was the first time where like we went outside and we're like, no. We appreciate the support from your label artist or whatever, but we're gonna do our work and try to have it work with that. And Daniel Sarah for Laurstein did an incredible job with that layout. And Cruz, my brother, did a wonderful job with this layout. So
all right, shout out to Chris. Compliments abound.
yeah.
Just as a kind of a final wrap up question, like other than family and your day job, anything else interesting you've been into in 2021? Any records you've appreciated? New books to read? Any films or shows you caught up on? I love to pick people's brains for the end of the year stuff.
Yeah, it's super bizarre, man, because this fatherhood stuff has you like in a complete time warp, man. It gets to the point where like I know more about these obscure cartoon or like YouTubers than anything else. Like I mean this guy Blippy is the bane of my existence. He's a millionaire. God bless him because he figured it out. But like he has a hold on the children. I think the last thing I enjoyed, and I went into the theater at the height of the pandemic, was I love Tenet, even if people didn't, just because I mean every time I see a Nolan movie, the score is out of control, and Ludwig Göransson like just completely destroyed that, man. I like it. It got to the point where like I was in the gym like trying to set PRs, like listening to that soundtrack, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting this deadlift today, but man, this record knocks. Like so, yeah, I loved that one. The past couple of years, I've been listening a lot to the Cigarettes After Sex records. Just really slow core. And we actually have a song like that we're going to record for the EP, but it just didn't fit the go nature of None But a Pure Heart. And it was like, but yeah, we have something just super slow and surf spaghetti westernish, and it was yeah really sort of that like I just been listening to that nonstop to kind of just get me into a place to chill out. Etienne in the band, the businessman, is actually the one who listens to the most violent trap music, and he sends me all sorts of stuff. But we definitely agreed on the Baby Keem album. Um, there's so many incredible beat switches on it, and I kind of miss that about rap when like there's just literally each verse has a different beat, and like there's not even a thread holding them together. Like there's different keys, they didn't even like different BPMs, and like that's incredible. Like this is like prog hip hop. And
Prog
then
trap might be a genre coming up soon.
yeah, listen, man, hey, if any of those guys out there want somebody to play keys, like sign me up. Like I'm totally down. And I haven't been to many shows, man, since the pandemic. Like that's been sort of non-existent. I like me and Etienne went to a 76ers game, and then it was just like the everything shut down after that. Like that was it, see you later. Let me see what else. I know I have a couple of things on the brain, but yeah, I love the Nolan stuff. I'm gonna go see the new Paul Thomas Anderson, Licorice Pizza. So I hope that's good, because like I mean, I've loved Boogie Nights, Magnolia. Like I think like Magnolia is one of those that like everybody's like, oh my god, I hate this. This is so bloated. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking me. I love that shit. This album is taking huge operatic broad strokes. That movie's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And I love that swinging for the fences mentality. You know, if you can make a 3.5 hour movie, you know, that frogs falling from the sky. And all sorts of, you know, Tom Cruise acting crazy and just everything. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's supposed to be his mature era, so I'm pretty sure he dialed it back. But
Right. I definitely will probably check that out. I love Tenet, the music and the film. I had to watch it a few times to fully understand it, but yeah, it's like Inception on crack, basically.
yeah,
And yeah, and I love. I will shout out John David Washington as a star of that film. That dude is going to be enormously huge as a superstar actor in the future. It's Denzel's son. People don't know that actually, but he is brilliant.
the lineage.
Yeah, I didn't know that he could do an action film, but because he's very, you know, he played sports guys and ballers, but like he is a brilliant dramatic actor. He's going to do a lot of awesome shit. Yeah, he's in Black Klansman. Shout out, man. Brandon, man, so good to catch up with you after such a long time. Congratulations on this new record. I hope everybody gets out of this record what I have gotten out of this record. And again, if these things are going to happen live somewhere down the road, I'm going to have to be there personally if I can, if it's possible.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Happy holidays. Thanks for hanging with Ghost Cult. Be safe and well and all that jazz. And we'll see you soon.
You too. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.